Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 77, then sunshine on Tuesday with a high of 91. Hazel's Northeast offers the most creative comfort food you'll find for any meal of the day. Hazel's is located at 29th and Johnson in Minneapolis, minutes from 35W. More at hazelsne2go.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, any cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives all over Turtle Island here, Wendy. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and I'm with Wendy Pilot and Ogimaa with the news. We're going to have Dr. Stately on, and you hear things on here you won't hear anywhere else, Wendy, all over Turtle Island. So Native issues, again, are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliant Energy, powering beyond. I want everyone to know, too, Native Roots Trading Post, 700 Nicollet Mall in downtown Minneapolis. We're going to be open till June 30th.
Yeah.
You can come in and get some swag and really good stuff, or you can order online. So go to Native Roots Trading Post.
Wow, good one, Wendy. Good one. Hey, happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
It's a national holiday, so we didn't get our mail.
Yeah,
but it's good. It's the newest holiday and well-deserved to our relatives.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. It's 100 million degrees here.
We've
just moved
really
closer
is.
to the sun. Minnesota is like pointing towards the sun now.
It is. It's very hot.
But you're going to be talking a little bit about what we can do to protect our sacred animals and our relatives later on in the show, next segment. But before we get any further here, let's go with Ogimaa with the news that you don't hear anywhere else, Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Ogimaa.
Hi, Nimbushu, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Ganuakwe, and I am a member of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota. I have news and information for you today. I first off want to start with something that I missed as I was gone all last week. And Robert and Wendy, I don't know if you talked about this, but Ogimaa, the Minneapolis restaurant by Sean Sherman, won a James Beard Award for Best New Restaurant. Did you guys catch that from the 14th?
Yeah, we won't.
did.
We're
That's
bummed
awesome.
out.
Wow.
We won't be able to get a seat now because they're nationally known. But just a FYI for our meeting tomorrow, I forgot all about this, but Sean's willing to come on anytime. So let's put him in the Sean Sherman, who's owner of the restaurant. And,
Absolutely, yeah. So I wanted to
That's
highlight
good.
Sean Sherman won for Best New Restaurant Award, but actually Crystal Wapepa, who owns an Indigenous restaurant in California, also won an award for Best Emerging Chef. And then our relative Alexis Nelson won the James Beard Media Award. And Alexis Nelson is a really awesome person to follow on TikTok. She does instructional videos on how to forage for your own food and gives Black history with it as well. So it's really fantastic. I was excited to see her face coming up as I follow her on TikTok, and Krista Wapepa and Sean Sherman to have two natives nominated for James Beard Awards and winning them over this past weekend was a big deal. So I wanted to start there and just kind of highlight them. And then, as always, we have water protector news that's coming up. Robert, have you been following the Treaty People Walk at all?
not the walk in general. I know Gina's talked about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the Treaty People Walk for Line 5 started June 11th and is running through June 25th. So they're walking from Wisconsin or to Wisconsin Point Road in Superior, Wisconsin. And I believe they walked from the northern part of Minnesota all the way over. It's about a 2-week walk. So if you get a chance, check out the hashtag Treaty People Walk or Treaty People Walk for Line 5 and see where they're at. Make sure you're sending out some prayers for our relatives who are going over to Wisconsin to start fighting the Line 5 pipeline, or continue fighting the Line 5 pipeline, I should say. And, they're culminating and ending the walk on June 25th. And June 25th, which is a Saturday, is going to be the Communities United by Water event, which is also called the Shakwamugan Bay celebration. And that is going to be happening at it's happening at Bayview Park, and it's put on by Penicky Hills Heritage Park Environmental Alliance. Honor the Earth, and others are going to be involved. There's no cost. There's no tickets. You don't need to bring money for tickets. You just need to bring yourself. So it's a chance for water protectors to meet, organize, inform one another, sing, dance, play, and eat. They're going to have live music, lacrosse games, community potluck, and Indigenous feast. And I believe that they're starting Friday, June 24th. There'll be a camp day, and there'll be local lodging and state national park lodging. But the event itself starts at about 9 a.m. on Saturday, the 25th, and there will be vendors that will be setting up, and they'll be starting with an opening ceremony at 11 a.m. And David Huckfelt is going to play, and Dawn Goodwin is going to speak. We've had her on Native Roots Radio as well. And there'll also be a keynote speaker, Mike Wiggins of the Bad River Band of Chippewa, who's leading the charge in fighting this pipeline, Line 5. As we know, Line 3 here in Minnesota was pretty devastating for the Mississippi River, and now the Straits of Mackinac are at risk. So if you are available, again, June 25th, that weekend is going to be Communities United by Water at Bayview Park in Wisconsin, and make sure you can, if you can, it's this coming weekend, and take your time to go support our relatives who are fighting for the water and for the manoomin, or wild rice. I also want to highlight relatives up on my nation. The Red Lake Boys and Girls Club is having a publication celebration. So the Red Lake Boys and Girls Club and the Minnesota Historical Society Press have joined forces, and they're actually publishing a children's book. It's called Mashkiki Road, which Mashkiki is Ojibwe for medicine. So it's Medicine Road is the name of the book. And it's Thursday, June 30th at 5 p.m. But basically what they're going to be doing is they're going to be joining the co-author, who's Elizabeth Barrett, and they're going to be celebrating the release of this children's book. And it features illustrations from Jonathan Thunder, and it follows 3 young cousins who explore the woods in search of medicines that help to heal and purify, and they gather advice from wise beings who offer life lessons along the way. There's going to be a meal, so this is going to be in person up in Red Lake, I believe, at the Boys and Girls Club building there. But I just wanted to send out a big congratulations to the Boys and Girls Club of the Red Lake Nation. They've been working really hard to bring good things to their community, working really hard with young Thomas Barrett as well, who's been spearheading a lot of that. So real proud of him and the work that they're doing up there. Relatives in the West a little bit, the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate have been awarded a $1.8 million broadband grant. So that is really, really exciting. So basically, the grant will service tribal members residing on the Lake Traverse Reservation now with internet, laptops, and cell phone boosters. So it's part of the government's initiative to bring better telecommunications to service areas that previously couldn't have afforded it. But there are also still applications available. So if you are from Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate, you can go to swo-nsn.gov and submit an application to the Tribal Education Department, and they can help get you on board with that too. But that is a pretty spectacular grant. So pretty excited for our relatives over there. And then, Robert, are you going down to Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary tomorrow at all for the solstice?
Probably not, because it's 1,000,000 degrees here.
It is
But
1,000,000 degrees.
it is really hot, and probably not, because I am old and I have high blood pressure.
Well, tomorrow, starting at about 9 a.m. at the Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary, they are celebrating the summer solstice at the Dakota Spirit Walk. And again, June 21st, Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary is in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they are going to have a free event where people can come and speak about the projects that are happening at the Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary, and talk to the spirits and the sacred sites of the Dakota people who live there. So there's going to be a lot of traditional things that are happening there. It's really going to be exciting. Kind of sad I'm going to miss that one. And then I've got one more event that's coming up here next Tuesday, June 28th from 4 to 6 p.m. There is an online event from the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support Circle, which I do believe we had on Native Roots Radio last year. And it's going to be a gathering of friends who want to listen, support, and discuss and share company in this journey for parenting, lactation, labor, and delivery. So that's an exciting event as well.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
Yeah, it definitely is. Hey, we got Wendy coming up next. We're going to talk about this heat and how we can protect our sacred animals and our relatives. Great job, Ogimaa, as always. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Bijou, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, I wasn't warmed up to do the wolf
I know.
here.
I
You kind of threw me
decided
off.
at the last second.
Wow. Doing radio on your toes. You're more of a planner than that. Ad-libber, Wendy.
I know I am.
Hey, I want to introduce Wendy, my awesome and beautiful wife, and she talks about our native ancestors, our relatives, and with 4 hooves and
paws
and
wings,
ears and noses and all those great things. But hey, we got some serious things to talk about, right, Wen?
We do. Hey, everybody. My name is Hanajihihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. As always, Curtis, thank you. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. And I have some tips here from the Humane Society of the United States. You could look them up. It's called Keep Pets Safe in the Heat. Now, we're mostly going to be talking about our furry friends, our dogs here, but as we speak right now, I have some pans of water out in our backyard, and we put a plastic pool out there with some water in it too, but nobody has used it. I think the animals I think the animals are afraid of it, but we'll see if anybody goes in there. I'll leave it out for a couple more days. It's going to be hot. But yeah, like, how do you keep your animals cool when the temperatures soar? That's really crazy. Here, the Humane Society of the United States, first of all, never leave your pet in a parked car. I mean, every year we find children dying because of this, and pets. So please do not even leave them, not even for a minute, not even with your car running and the air conditioning on. Some police dogs have died that way because their handler would leave them in the car with the car on and the air conditioning on with best intentions, and then they get caught up and something happens and the car stalls and the air conditioner stops. And this is what could happen. We really need to watch the humidity. This is something that's important to remember, that it's not just the ambient temperature, but also the humidity that can affect your pet, says Dr. Barry Kellogg. He's a veterinarian of the Humane Society of the Veterinary Medicine Association. Animals pant to evaporate moisture from their lungs, which takes heat away from their body. If the humidity is too high, they are unable to cool themselves and their temperature will skyrocket to dangerous levels very quickly. Taking your dog's temperature will quickly tell you if there is a serious problem. Dogs' temperature should not reach over 104 degrees. If your dog's temperature does, follow the instructions below. So you need to just get for heat stroke, and I'll get to that if we have time. But you could just Google Humane Society of the United States, dog temperatures and heat stroke, and it'll give you instructions for do that. Of course, we want to limit exercise on these hot days. I know our dogs are dying to go for a walk, and they don't really understand that it's hot for them, and that I think that they think we're being mean, right, Robert? And we're just keeping them in the house for no reason whatsoever. But they need to they can't even go around the block. It's really too hot. I mean, it's 99 degrees right now. It's 6:22 p.m. here in St. Paul. So we
got
can't
one of
do
our
that.
dogs panting in the house.
I know. We have air conditioning on too.
Right.
So we really need to just be careful. I mean, if you don't have a backyard with a fence, just take them out on a leash and just let them, walk around a little bit to just do their business and get them back in a cool place. I did not know this, but listen to this. Do not rely on a fan. Pets respond differently to heat than humans do. Dogs, for instance, sweat primarily from their feet, and fans don't cool off pets as effectively as they do people. Yeah, I didn't know that. Provide ample shade and water. We know that, right? Anytime your pet is outside, make sure they have protection from the heat and sun and plenty of fresh, cold water. In heat waves, like we're having one now, add ice to the water when possible. Tree shade and tarps are best ideal because they don't obstruct airflow. A doghouse does not provide relief from the heat. In fact, it makes it worse.
Wow.
Yeah. So if
Tammy Faye had an air conditioner in her dog's dog houses.
Yeah, I don't really like dog houses because it kind of isolates your pet. And dogs, we all know, are pack animals and they like to be with their people. So that's kind of sad. Cool your pet inside and out. Whip up a batch of quick and easy DIY popsicles for your dog.
Oh, we've bought those before.
We have, and we've kept them in the
Crazy.
freezer and given them. And always provide water, whether your pet is inside or out with you.
Now we just give those popsicles to little kids that come by because our dogs won't eat them.
Okay, so here's what you could do for the heat stroke. Keep your pet from overheating indoors or out with cooling body wrap, vest, or a mat. Soak these products in cool water and they'll stay cool, but usually dry for up to 3 days if your dog doesn't find bath stressful. So I actually took a little, I have like those wipes that come out like and they're wet and they smell like a light tangerine. They're dog wipes, and I wipe Wanda down and she really likes it. And I rub it especially on her belly and keep her nice and cool.
So do like white dogs or lighter colored dogs need to stay out of the sun too because of the sun and the sunburn?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Like Gracie, she has thin white hair and you could see her skin is pink. So if she goes out, she could get sunburned. So you want to just be careful. And we want to watch for signs of heat stroke.
Yes.
Some signs of the heat stroke are heavy panting, glazed eyes, a rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing, excessive thirst, lethargy, fever, dizziness, lack of coordination, profuse salivation, vomiting, a deep red or purple tongue, seizures, and unconsciousness.
Except for the tongue. That's kind of how I feel before I go to bed every night.
And then if your dog is having any of those symptoms, move your pet to the shade or air conditioned area, apply ice packs or cold towels to their head, neck, and chest, or run cool, not cold, water over them. Let them drink small amounts of cool water or lick ice cubes. Take them directly to a veterinarian. Good luck, everybody out there with the heat.
Definitely. That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick thing, not even when it's this hot, when it's 80 degrees and you got a dog in the car.
Oh, I know.
You can legally break that window and get the dog out, right?
Not in every state. I don't think Minnesota is a state. I would have to look that up. There are some states that you can do that. You could break a person's car window and get the dog out, but sometimes you can't. You can get arrested for breaking the window to save a dog.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have to look it up. You have to look it up before you break the window. The first thing you can do is just call the police. Call the police, they'll come and they'll get the dog out.
So we should stop driving around with that brick in our car then.
I was just going to remind people too, and I don't know if it's against the law either, and always call the police, but if you see a child in a hot car,
oh my God,
make sure you get that brick out because children die every year with that. And, it's horrible. And, as a burnt out, tired parents of a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. We were out in the sun a lot this last week, and nobody stayed in the car for more than a few minutes each. It
A
was just too
9-year-old and a
dangerous.
3-month-year-old. I think you said 3-year-old.
See, yeah, that's how tired I am.
Really
But
grow up quick.
Wow, has it been that long since we've seen Nova?
No, yeah. She's a little
3-month-year-old, yeah.
darling.
It
Little
feels
darling now.
like almost a year. But yeah, I mean, I live in paranoia too. As a parent, you're always looking in the back seat behind you. Oh, did I grab them? Make sure you don't forget them. And it's extra important if you're a parent to make sure that you're taking care of your kids in the heat too.
Oh,
That's a
absolutely.
good point, right,
My
Wendy? I mean,
gosh,
little
yes.
kids are sacred too.
Of course they are.
Well, and your pets are like your children too. So I totally understand breaking a window for a dog or a child, or, heaven forbid you see a cat or something. But,
And it's hot, and not only our sacred relatives or sacred animals, but gosh, check on older people.
The elders.
The
Just give them a
elders.
call, see if they're okay, see if they're keeping cool, making sure their air conditioning's working.
Or if they have it.
Yeah.
Some people up north don't have air conditioning.
Sometimes people don't want air conditioning.
Right, but you still got to be. It's just got to be. Got to check on them too.
The flip side to that too is if you know an elder that does have air conditioning, elders have fallen in air-conditioned rooms and ended up with hypothermia too. So, I mean, you should check in
Wow.
on your elders all the time, but air conditioning can be dangerous to our elders for that opposite reason. Sometimes they get too cold.
Sure.
Wow, that is it's just amazing, Wendy. It's just a lot of stuff going on.
Put some pans of water out there for the wildlife. The little bunnies and squirrels and chipmunks and things will appreciate it. Plus the bees and butterflies too.
Well, we kind of joke about it, but we witness this all the time, 24/7. Our relatives here that stop in for a little seeds and some peanuts and a drink of water.
Yep, they do.
It's crazy, but I thought you were crazy, but they do come in and drink, and they drink a lot. Well, look at that squirrel. That squirrel's hasn't stopped drinking in 10 minutes. He's thirsty.
Little Chippy comes too and drinks.
Yeah. Hey, great segment. Up next, Dr. Stately. We're going to just play catch up here and maybe talk to him about, doing the show while we're gone.
Yeah, sounds good.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
When we heal from our traumas,
When we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, this is Tom Hartman. Listen to me weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Find more at am950radio.com.
Hey, Kurt, check out this website for AM 950.
We don't have time for that, Pat. We got to promote the Up North podcast Saturday nights at 9.
But look at all these great shows. The webpage looks like a bingo card of talk that's smart, funny, and engaging.
And now they're adding the Up North podcast Saturday nights at 9.
Well, we do fit in nicely. You on Lake Minocqua, me on Lake Wissota. Just some Midwestern common sense and a little subversiveness.
The Up North podcast Saturday nights at 9 on AM 950.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow this summer, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
Think your company's safe? Your staff is working from home, right? As I speak, cyber criminals are mounting attacks across the country. Remember, when we're weakest, cyber criminals attack. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 77, then sunshine on Tuesday with a high of 91. Hazel's Northeast offers the most creative comfort food you'll find for any meal of the day. Hazel's is located at 29th and Johnson in Minneapolis, minutes from 35W. More at hazelsne2go.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, we're going to have Dr. Stately on here soon. He is just driving home from Richfield, and I always wondered how that city in Minnesota got its name. The field was rich. There's gold planted there.
Well, we have a lot of Native American named cities here in Minnesota. It was really funny. I was watching something on social media, a TikTok, that a woman who grew up here was testing her friend who lived
from New Orleans. Yeah.
Oh, from New Orleans.
Yeah.
On how to pronounce some of the names that we have, and it was pretty funny listening to how she was trying to pronounce the names.
Yeah,
do you
she was
remember
close
some
on
of
a
them?
couple
Yeah.
of them, like Shakopee.
Shakopee was one.
She was close on that.
Yeah. There were quite a few.
Geez, I want to say Edina. She was like
Yeah.
Edina
or
something like.
I think she said Edina.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's quite a few funny names there. Yeah.
Exactly. So this weather is tremendous. Like we were talking about in New York City, it's in the 70s right now.
Yeah.
And it's just really hot here in the Midwest.
Yeah, and it's going to be hot all week long. I mean, the temperatures, if I look just for St. Paul alone.
Well, Wendy, speaking of hot, here's Dr. Stately here with some really great backlighting too that's making him and his kitty look really hot. Welcome, Dr. Stately.
Hello, how are you?
Came down from the heavens.
Yes.
Yeah. We're looking angelic.
And that's Boy Kitty.
Oh, what?
Kitty. Yeah, I just got home from being gone since this morning. He wants attention.
I don't blame him. We do too.
He wants me to go lay down and take a nap with him, and there he goes. He's laying right. Don't. He's trying to lay on the keyboard. Don't.
So, Dr. Stately, I heard rumors. Wow. I heard rumors that you may be hosting this show.
Really? Oh, yeah. I'm still waiting for my contract, but yes, I've heard.
Ogimaa is going to work that out with you after the show.
There's a nasty rumor going around town that I'm going to be the new Native Roots Radio host.
Yeah. This Thursday and Friday. Oh,
Woohoo!
No, I
I'll
think
be on time because there's no hockey. Like my boys were in hockey practice, and let me
That's
tell you, I did not want to leave that rink. That rink was amazing. I was like,
oh.
Well,
I'm gonna lay down on that ice and stay right there and sleep there tonight.
I know years ago playing hockey myself, the ice was still affected by how hot it was outside. It was slow.
Oh yeah, it was. It was. I think in some areas like it was kind of soupy.
Oh, really?
Actually, well, I was in Richfield, and they have two rinks. The rink one is the original rink, which is the older part of the building. They were like, the ice was soup, and the windows were all fogged up, which tells you that there's a leak somewhere, like in the seals. And then we were in rink 2, thank God, which was better conditions, and it was nice and cold.
Mm.
You know, we talk a lot about things that can come off a little dark and stuff. When we ran into you and Wendy got to meet you for the first time, that was she put that on the calendar. So on our next year's calendar, that will be put on there for the first time Wendy met you in person. There's a cat chopping wood, it sounds like, in the background, but you know, we want to be we want to be a little more positive than we usually are. And I mean, talk about your clinic, for instance. Here, you're the CEO of the Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. For our people that are listening to us all over Turtle Island, let's just talk about what it was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and what it's like now. You know, and how far we've come as opposed to how far we have to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's, you know, I left Minneapolis when I was a young man. I was 24 years old. And when I left Minneapolis, there was, you know, the Franklin Avenue, and that part of Franklin Avenue is called the American Indian Cultural Corridor. It's kind of like the central, you know, the grounding force of the Native community. They're all around. Most Native people that live in the urban core, a lot of the ones, a good percentage of them all come from that area of town. And that was, you know, that location and that space in South Minneapolis was established right after the Relocation Act in 1950s, right? 52, I think, 1951 maybe. With the promises of all the jobs and all the other things that were going to come with it, right? And what we found, of course, after moving from all these rural areas, our reservation areas to urban areas like Minneapolis, is that the jobs and the education and the homes and all these other things that were promised didn't actually come. And, you know, when I left in 1985, that avenue was just starting to transform. I grew up as a young boy on that Franklin Avenue, and it was like there were in those 4 or 5 blocks of Franklin Avenue, there was probably 6 Native bars all within that area. So that was different when I came back. It was all changed. All those were gone. Other things were there. And so in some ways and I was gone for almost 20 years, almost 22 years. Lived in Los Angeles for 18 and Seattle for 5. So I was gone for 23 years. And when I came back, that whole area looked different. We had, you know, there's a lot that's there that was there when I was a young man, but they're different. The avenue's different. There's a lot more Native organizations than there was serving our people when I left in 1985. But in some ways, in many, many ways, we are worse off today than we were in the 1980s, right? Right after the big renaissance following Wounded Knee and all the things that happened, those laws that got passed, the Religious Freedom Act, Native American Indian Child Welfare Act, all these things that sort of kind of set us on a path that the Indian Education Act, these things that our ancestors and my relatives and my great-grandparents and grandparents fought for, that we're all still fighting for today so that our children can have a better future. Those things took place and took root in Minneapolis and in the Twin Cities area and in Minnesota. And so my perspective is that coming back after being gone for 20 some years, in some conditions and ways, we're in worse shape. We have more children in out-of-home placement than we did before National Indian Child Welfare Act today, a lot because of the impact of the war on drugs and the opiate use disorder stuff, and quite frankly, just racism and policy around social welfare and healthcare and a number of other things. And we're worse off in all kinds of other conditions. 40 years into things, we're a little bit worse off in some areas, better off in other areas. But Minnesota should definitely, as a collective, be a little embarrassed about the conditions of its indigenous peoples, because we are the ones who fought so hard for some of these big, huge national things, big things that are national laws now. And it's primarily, honestly, it's a couple of decades of not investing, 2 or 3 solid decades of not investing in the community at all.
Wow.
And that's a shame, right? It means we also have a lot of work to do.
That's awesome. Your dog's really loud, by the way.
Actually, not my dog. My partner's cooking food for our dinner. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, what's for
I
dinner?
literally got out of the car, ran to the front door, threw open the door, and in one fell swoop, as I laid my bag down, I grabbed my computer out of my bag and sat down and logged on. It was like poetry in motion.
Wow. I wish
I didn't even stop. It was a lot like Superman. It looked a lot like Superman, only slower.
And minus the cape, Kato.
Yeah, no cape and kale. It's like old man Superman. I was like, I didn't stop, but I wasn't quite as fast as him.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because you really do understand what's happened on Franklin Avenue. Your mother, your great late mother, was a part of the American Indian movement who really did a lot of the change there in that early period in the 70s and early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talk about where it's at right now. I'm glad you're bringing the truth with you.
Thank you. I mean, I think, there's a couple of things I'm trying to do in the next 5 years that are in direct sort of like in honor of my mom. My mom was a community organizer. My mom, I remember when AIM started to take shape. I was a young boy, maybe 6 years old, 1967, 68. I remember seeing my uncles, Clyde and Vernon and Dennis and them guys and many of their compatriots kind of come to our home, go in the basement. Remember my mom telling me, like, don't come down here. This is, telling me and my brothers and sisters, like, this is like adult work. Don't come down here. And now looking back, of course, I was like a little kid. I didn't understand what the heck they were doing with all that. But I remember, before American Indian movement was established, and really, quite frankly, the 1969, 1970, kind of era, it was a group of Native women in South Minneapolis who initially started that whole movement. They were concerned about the conditions of their families, the conditions of their children. They were concerned about the police brutality that was happening to them, their husbands and the fathers of their children, right? And they were like, we got to do something. And they kind of pushed hard on the men to do something. And a movement was born. And my experience and my perspective is that all across Turtle Island, women are the people that start things, right? They're the ones that sort of like, they take notice of things. And quite honestly, I think they see the impact of things sooner than the rest of the population, because they're the caretakers of our children. And then those impacts have effects on their children at the earliest time of their lives. So.
Hey, Dr. Staley, can you stay with us another segment? I'd really like to get a deep dive on that. I mean, even as little as the 90s, we still had police throwing Indians into the trunk and on Franklin Avenue. And, the women lead the way, and we know that in a good way. So let's look a little deeper on that. Okay.
Well, it's 2021, and Native people are still killed by police more often than any other race. We just don't know about that. We don't talk about that a whole lot.
Let's talk about it. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us, Wendy.
Stay with us.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert.
I'm doing it twice. This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Ooh. Hey, we're back with the CEO of the Native American Community Clinic here in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, Minnesota, Dr. Stately, and we're talking a little bit. About history and how far we've come and how far we still have to come. And Dr. Stately, we were kind of leaving off is that a lot of things haven't changed. The things stay the same. The more they, how does that saying go? The more things change, the more they stay.
When they stay the same, yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking a little bit about it's a little worse. And you just dropped a little bomb when I popped up the bumper music, and you were talking about we're still the highest race being arrested and incarcerated.
Yeah, we have some of the highest rates of incarceration, across the United States per capita than any other racial group. A few years ago, when I was as I was winding down my role in as the director for behavioral health at the Shakopee, Metawakan, and Sioux community, and before I started my work as the CEO at NAC, I had gotten involved as a volunteer with some folks who was trying to bring some change to opportunities for Native women at the Shakopee Women's Prison. And when I started kind of getting involved in that work as a volunteer and kind of supporting it, I did a little bit of research and I kind of looked into things and talked with not the governor, that lady that runs the prison. What's her name again? Oh, the
warden.
The warden. Yeah, and she was really nice. She was really sweet, and she was, as sweet as wardens can be, I suppose. But what I learned from that experience was that the majority of Native women, the majority of the prisoners, a significant population of the prison population in Shakopee Women's Prison are Native women. I don't know if it's the majority, but it's greater than 25%. And the challenge is that proportionally Native people only make up 1% of the population, 1 to 2% of the population in the state of Minnesota. So for
Wow.
us to have a 20 to 30% representation of women in a state prison be Native women, there's something wrong with the way in which justice is being sort of measured and meted out, right? And it's similar for the male population as well. We are per capita, we are one of the more are proportionately is another way of saying that we are one of the most greatly impacted minority community members of the ethnic minority communities. And I think one of the things that's really important, I always wanted, I always get into this argument with people as well as I tell them Native people aren't minorities. I mean, we're categorized as minorities and classified as minorities, but we have a government to government relationship with the United States that is different than any other ethnic minority in the United States. And so our relationship with them and the expectations that we have, the treaties that they signed that made promises for specific things, education, food, shelter, all these things that are in the treaties. A lot of the treaties say as long as the grass grows and is, which is scary because we're entering global warming and maybe grasses are going to grow anymore in about 10 years. But the point being is that we are disproportionately impacted by those things. We are also disproportionately killed more frequently by people in law enforcement than other races. But we don't talk about those things because we're such a small population and it doesn't register as important. And part of that is because, over the last several 100 years or so, society has worked really hard to make Native people invisible, right?
Yep.
Make us invisible, and then when we become invisible, we're also insignificant. So,
exactly. I've been listening to a podcast from the lady that did Finding Cleo, and she's talking directly about the effects of these schools, back in the day on her father and her birth father and what happened. And it's just amazing. The lengths that the government handed over all these Native children to the Catholic Church and paid them, and they went crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's just disheartening, and it makes you so angry, and it makes you understand how some of our relatives have this trauma that they've been acting out for years and handing down, and it just all makes sense, Dr. Staple.
Yeah. And I think the other part of that is also I always tell people because my clinical expertise is also in trauma and historical trauma specifically, and its impact on tribal communities, both rural and reservation and urban. But I tell people all the time, historical trauma and things like the boarding school didn't happen that long ago. I was a boarding school survivor. I'm only 59 years old. So we're talking less than a couple of generations ago, people were still going to boarding school and having those experiences. So it isn't something that happened hundreds of years ago. It's something that is fairly recent and is still impacting our communities. And, we're working hard in Indian country to address those things, but it's hard to do that work when we're also sort of kind of pushing a boulder upstream, and we're working within the context of a larger societal structure, a colonized society that is, continually oppressing us and continually killing us and continually not making good on its promises and giving us the resources that we are entitled to, quite frankly.
Exactly. And, just the eraser of us and not being human, not being around, and then also have to educate, because we're not in books and what things have happened to us. Generally speaking, we're educating our white allies, and that becomes exhausting.
Yes, very exhausting. So I tell people all the time, it is hard work to be an Indian, man. They complain to me about the things that they have to contend with. I'm like, well, you got being not being Indian on your side, because you're constantly working. If you're not working while you're in your job, you're working educating your kids, training your kids, helping them understand like how to survive living within structured racism and all of the policies and things that sort of like are working against you and trying to annihilate you. I remember the very first time that my sons came home from school at kindergarten, and they with big tears in their eyes. They didn't understand, like, I think, forget who it was that just got shot. It was like 7 years ago. So it was, I think it was the kid in Brooklyn Park. Forgetting his name at the moment, but like the amount of effort that it took to try to help my sons understand. My son looked at me. He was like, "Why are they shooting and killing brown boys?" You know, because he was a light-skinned black kid, and they were like, "Why are they killing people that look like me?" And to have that conversation with him at that age, at 6 or 7 years old, how hard that was to try to get him to understand that this thing was real, and and then how to help him to understand how to navigate life after something like that. These are not conversations and things that white folk have to have with their kids. They are conversations that they should be having with their kids about the impact on them, but they're not conversations that they have to have so that their kids can go to school and feel safe, and they can feel, are out in the world and feel like they don't have an invisible target on their back. These are real things that our kids have to deal with, on top of a pandemic and on top of a bunch of other things.
Exactly. I really appreciate you coming on and talking a real truth. And I know the people listening to this on the radio and really appreciate your candor, because this is how we get better, as we expose things, and the truth will set you free. And Dr. Stately, really, really appreciate you being on, as always. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and it was another great show. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated and boosted.
Crooner's Supper Club is back after an exciting renovation.